Hey guys, so today we're going to be going over kind of an intro to switching levels and how to set up all that data and the blueprints necessary. We're just going to be creating our own custom game instance and assigning it in the project files, stuff like that. So we're going to be carrying over the player data from this level, the rotation, the health, and we're going to be sending it to the other level. So I have 230 health. I go through here. You can see it sets the rotation of the character to however I entered. And then in the top left, you can see the first is health, the second's rotation, and then the third is the location. So those are just the stats I printed out. And then if we go back through here, you can see that the player rotation when they spawned in is facing. Um, it can be kind of hard to tell from level to level, but you can set those values yourself if you want a specific rotation when they come through a door, or you can take the player rotation directly like how we're doing it. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. First off, I already have my third person character open. We're gonna need whatever your player character is, and then the second thing is, by default, there is something called a game instance that Unreal Engine creates whenever a project starts. Now, the default game instance has no code in it, and it's not even, you can't find it anywhere. So, if you go into project settings, go into maps and modes, down here, you'll see game instance class. You've got this and this, well, probably just this one. Um, but if you click browse, you'll notice it doesn't go anywhere. Um, so that's the first thing we're going to have to do. We're going to have to create a game instance. So let's go ahead and go to Blueprint. You can just search game instance. And what we're going to do is we're just going to create a game instance. Let's just call it, we don't want to call it the exact same thing because that'll be confusing. So I'm going to call it uh, uh, play tutorial. I'm going to call it tutorial game instance. Okay, so we have tutorial game instance. Now you should still have the project settings open. We're going to go to game instance class. We're going to drop this in. So now that we've done that, this project is going to use tutorial game instance, and this is going to load up whenever the game loads up. The game instance is basically the game itself. It's always active. You can go ahead and close this. So what a game instance is it is basically the game itself. So whereas like maps and everything, when you transfer map to map, everything kind of resets back to a default. The game instance never actually closes, and if it does close for some reason, it would cause a crash. Um, so let's go ahead and save that and open that up, and it's just empty. So what we're going to be trying to do here is let's go ahead and we want to change from this default map over to map 2, and we want to carry over the information on our character from this map to that map. So first, let's go ahead and create a level transfer uh, object here. So I'm going to create, let's go back here. I've got multiple open, so I'm actually going to use one of these other ones. That's the wrong one. Level transfer. So we've got this. Let's go ahead and create a level transfer actor. It's basically just going to be a trigger. So BP underscore map change trigger. Okay, so we've got this. Let's go ahead and add in a collision. Let's just use a box collision, that's fine. Go ahead and raise this up.
32, 32. Let's go ahead and make this 50 by 50, and then we'll make it 100 tall, and then we will make the location 50. Let's pull it up a bit more. I get 100. Okay. So we've got that pile, and then let's go ahead and do overlap. We can do overlap all dynamic, that's fine. Generate overlap events. Good. Well, it doesn't need gravity. I'm going to leave it visible for now, so I'm going to uncheck hidden in game. Okay. And then let's go ahead and do component begin overlap. We're just going to do a simple, oh, you know, actually, let's do this right. Let's set up an interface. So let's go ahead, do blueprint, do interface. Let's do BPI underscore. We only want a few things to be able to change a map. Sometimes you'll want the player character, enemies, various things, but you're not going to want, typically objects, you're not going to want to be able to change maps. There's a lot of circumstances for it. There's really not a reason for enemies to ever change maps. But we can go ahead and just use this for here. We'll do change map. And you could use this for two things. You could use this for changing the map. You could also use it for fake map changes, like if you've got a house or something and you don't want the interior to be where they go through the door, like you want them to go through the door and then they teleport to a different location where the actual house is, typically like below the map. You could double purpose this kind of, and you could also make it a like a teleport more than an actual map change, but for now we're just going to do that. Inputs, outputs, let's go ahead and leave that alone. Okay, and then for the change map trigger, let's go to class settings, implemented. Let's do BPI change map, compile and save. So that's in the map change. And then in third person, we'll do class settings, and then we'll add another one. So we'll do BPI underscore change map. Okay. And then on begin overlap, what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if they have the interface. So we'll just type interface in here, go to the bottom, does implement. We'll do BPI underscore change map. Do a branch here. Okay, and then if it does, we want to call this change map on the actor. So do, oh, spelled it wrong. Change map message. True. And let's just do a do once. We don't want this to trigger multiple times, so we'll just do that as a safety precaution. And I'm going to add a reroute here. If you didn't know, an easy way to do a reroute, by the way, is if you go straight, if you just double click on this line, like double left click, you can just create a reroute node. So let's go ahead and do that.
And then just to make it straight, I'll double click here and we will go like that. Actually, we'll go like that. Okay, so we've got that. That's pretty much all we're gonna need to do in here for the moment. Actually, let's do one more thing. Let's go ahead and add a name. This is gonna be our map change name. So this is the map it's going to. So we'll do level name. Let's make it instance editable, and that should be good. And then let's go ahead and do a vector as well, actually. So we'll do, when you change maps, you're gonna want the player to spawn into a specific location sometimes, not just like a default. So if you reuse a map multiple times, you're going to want them to go to the correct spot on the map whenever they go back. So we can do let's just call it teleport location. And then we're just going to change that to a vector. And then we now have two things we need to add to our interface, which I closed. So let's go ahead and compile that. Go back to the interface here. So we've got change map. Let's go ahead and do two inputs. We'll do name and vector. So we'll do level name, teleport location. Compile, save, map change. We got these here now. So these are instance editable. We'll leave them blank as we're going to want to set those typically on a per instance basis. Let's move that out a bit. Okay. I'll save. Okay, so we've got all of this. So now this should cast to whatever has the BPI map change interface, which at this point is just the player character. Let's go ahead and go to the interface. So we've got the map change right here. Let's go ahead and pull this out. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to get a reference to the game instance. Now, normally casting to stuff a lot is a bad idea. However, the game instance is one of the few situations where casting to it is not a big deal, because the game instance is always active. And because it's always active, it's always loaded by the game. So normally the big issue with casting is memory, but since the game instance is always open, it's not a big deal. So we can do cast to game instance. Get game instance. So then as the game instance, let's go do this. Oh, I guess we don't have to. We can just do get. We can try that. There is sometimes a reason to do that though. We'll go ahead and see in a minute. So for the variables, we're in the tutorial game instance now. Let's go ahead and set these up. These are going to be our player variables. Now, normally you'd want to set this up as a struct, because you could fill a struct with a bunch of information, and then you could fill in that information as needed. So, you know what? Let's do that. So we've got this, we've got the structure here. Let's just call it player struct. And then I'm just gonna add a couple in here. Let's do just call it health. We'll do rotation, and then location. So we'll make this a float. This is going to be a rotator, and this is going to be a vector. So what we're going to be putting in here, we'll be putting in the active player health, the active player rotation, but then for the location, we're going to be taking that information from the map change trigger. So how it's going to look, let's go ahead and go back here. Let's get that struct. So we got the player struct. Oh, I'll type in some more here. Okay, so player struct, compile, rename, player struct. And then I don't think we can pull that because we didn't cast to it, yeah. So we'll pull that cast node back up. Instance. Actually, I think we need to cast to the specific one. So we'll do cast to tutorial game instance. Yep, there we go. So we can get the right information. Compile, save. There we go. That warning went away. Off here, we'll get the set. Well, we don't want to set. We actually want to get. So we'll do get player struct make what is it? Is it set? It might be set. Set player struct. And then we'll pull off here and we'll do make player struct. Yep, there we go. Okay. So we'll just pull that out. We're going to set the teleport location there, and then we're going to get the let's get I should have a health variable in here somewhere. Yep, there it is. So player health. Health. And then get rotation. Get actor rotation. That's going to be self. So we'll put this here. We'll put this here. Compile, save, and there. Okay, so now when this plays, it's going to cast all this information to the game instance and make sure that this data is saved on the game instance itself. And then we're going to have to decide where to open the map. Now, I typically like to do stuff like this in the game instance. It depends. So let's do... We don't want to put it too close because we don't want it to open the new level before it finishes saving the data. But we don't want to fill up the game distance with the game instance with a bunch of random stuff. Let's just do... Let's try setting up a custom event here. Custom event, change map. So I'll put that just right here, save. And then what we want to do is we want to level name. Open level by name. Just plug that directly in here. And then when the new map finishes loading, salute, leave that alone. We want to set the information back on the player character to the correct stuff. So we want to set all this after the player spawns in. So let's set up a variable in the game instance here. Let's do Boolean. Let's call active map change. Oh. So the game instance is keeping track of whether or not we are currently changing maps. We want that to default to negative, so that's true. Okay. So let's make another custom here. Check if map change. Check if level change. And then we will get this branch. Okay, so sets positive here, checks if the level is currently changing. If it is, then we want to cast that back to the player character. The player character instance will change though, so we don't have a direct reference to it, but we can give it a reference right after we spawn. So, let's see, do we have a begin play? Begin play? Yeah, so we do. So we'll do all this, add mapping context, and then at this, we will cast to tutorial game instance. And basically, we're just going to be checking if there was an active map change. So we'll do, let's go ahead, what is that? Check if level change. So check if level change. So check if level change, and then if that's true, first thing we want to do is we want to turn this back to negative. And then we want to send this player struct data back to the player. So good. Full name. Right here, change map. Forgot to put this in. So we'll do change map. We'll go ahead and just reroute this over. Okay, forgot about that. And then we want to get a reference to the actor. So check if level change, and then if it is true, we'll just do player. Player. We'll do player reference just to shorthand it. Okay, so player reference. And then we want to set all that information. There's two ways we could do this. We could set a like a function or something in here that sets all that information up. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll just start with a custom event for now. So custom event, set player data. And then we will take the player struct. We're just gonna type it all the way out so that I can actually find it. There we go. That way everyone knows what it's doing here. We'll change player reference. Go ahead and get a reference to self here. And then compile. Let's go ahead and refresh. Why did that change? Oh, I didn't compile it in the game instance. There we go. Okay, so that's all good. Go back down here. So we've got the player struct, so we'll go ahead and just break that. So then we will set all this information back. So set player health. We're going to, let's go ahead and set transform, set actor transform. We'll go ahead and just split this. You could set the rotation and the rotation and the location separately. Teleport, but as long as the scale doesn't change, it doesn't matter. If you do have a unique scale on your character, then you'll probably want to set these individually so it doesn't mess up. Or you can just, if you know what the scale is, or if you have a variable for the scale, you can just plug that into right here. So we've got that. So set actor transform. And I think that's good. Do here. Game instance, player ref. Oh, yeah, here we go. So set player data. Right. So we'll have to do pass to player. So that's third person character. Gonna go ahead and pull this up here. And then, what did we name that one? Set player data. Set player data. And then we're gonna plug the struct in there. File, save. So now the next thing we have to do is for the actual map change trigger, we created these two variables and instanced them, but we haven't actually put any information in them yet. And we also haven't put the map change anywhere. I'm gonna put this right here. Boop. Okay. And then for the level name, map 2, map 2, and then in the other level, I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. It's just a blank. Go ahead and put this in. And then let's go ahead and we have to put in third person map because that's the map I'm using. Person map. Third person map. Third person map. Okay. These are case sensitive, so you're going to want to make sure to get it exactly the same. Oh, wait, did I... Is this instance editable? It is not. So make sure to put teleport location to instance editable. Save. And then I don't want the player to spawn in directly on top of this if I can avoid it, because it will cause the player potentially to immediately try and immediately try and go back to the other map, and then you'll be caught in an endless loop. So let's make the player teleport, I don't know, like let's make them teleport a little ways away so they can start the map here. So that would be these coordinates. We can go ahead and just copy that, and then I'll move it back over here. I'll have to go back to the other map now. Save. On this one. So then we will paste that in here. And then when we come back to this map, let's have the player show up on this thing over here. So got this. So we've got the location right here. We'll copy that. This one's already set up. So we'll go back to map 2, save. And then in here, we will paste it. Now, one thing I'm going to do, obviously you don't have to do this, but so to make sure that all the data and everything is actually transferring properly, let's go ahead and add in a print node. So right here, when it sets the player data, we want to make sure it's actually working. So let's go ahead and just do a print. If I could spell. And let's go ahead, we can do player health. Actually, we'll do player health. Let's do an append. Of course. Sorry. Let's do an append node. That's a list. That's not right. Append string. So we'll add a couple of pins here. We'll take player health, put it into A. In this one, I'm going to do space and then /space. In C, I'm going to do the rotation. In D, I'm going to do space /space. I'm going to add another pin, and then I'm going to do the location. Right there. And then I'm going to set this up so it lasts for 20 seconds, so we have time to read it. Okay. Oh, and then I'm going to actually plug it in so it shows information instead of doing nothing. All right, so that should be everything. Let's go ahead and go back to, I guess we could just do it here, but I want to take some damage first. So our total health is 300. So let's go ahead and just spawn in right down here. I did a damage over time series previously. So what we're going to do, sorry about the jitter there. So what we're going to do is walk through the fire. We're going to take some damage. So let's see. Let's let it tick down real quick. Okay, so that should put us at, I believe, 160. And then if we go through here, let's see, where did it put us? Okay, so it looks like we spawned in a little bit below. Probably we spawned in, got teleported, and then sank through the floor. So let's adjust the Z's on these a little bit. If I hit escape, it should take us back to the previous map. Yep. So let's go ahead and adjust the Z on this, and let's make it 300. That should give us enough time for everything to load in and for us to fall. And back here, we'll do the same thing. We'll just add, so this is 250.250, a bunch of other stuff. We'll just add another 200 to that, so we'll do 450. Save. Third person. And I'm just going to start from here this time. Okay, this time we're just gonna run right here. 70, 50. Okay, so 230, run through. Okay, we're still spawning below. We may be getting killed before it finishes spawning us in. Let's see, what's the kill ceiling on this? Low. Let's add a player start in somewhere over here. So let's do player start. So we'll do here. So when the map loads, it should put us right here, and then it should teleport us over here. And actually, I'm going to start here this time. Okay. Okay, so there we go. That one worked perfectly. You can see we have 300 health in the top left there, and then a bunch of other stats like the rotation and location. Let's go ahead and jump over this. Give it a second. So our health. Okay, so I don't know. It's at like 240, I think. Okay, there we go. So now we spawned in. We have 230 health, and then there's all the rotation and location data. So now to make sure the rotation and location are working right, we'll have to keep track. It spawned us in this direction to start with, and then this way when we come back in here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna approach it from a different angle. Oh. So there we go. And then same for this. Okay, so this spawned us in the same rotation. Okay, so I think that one's working. This one doesn't seem to be rotating us though after we spawn in. So my guess is maybe it's trying to set the player data before we fully finish spawning in and everything. The best way, normally there would be loading screens and stuff for map changes. Usually that's where all that stuff takes place. So what we can try to do here is we send this out, and then it sends us this data back. And when it sends us this data back, we could try to just add a small delay here. So we'll do a delay by 0.2. Hopefully that'll give the actor enough time to actually spawn in. Okay, so that actually looks like the character spawned in the correct direction and then rotated because of the camera. So that's probably a different setup with the way that the camera on this is working. Let's see. Rotation D. So camera input. Let's actually just disconnect that for a second. And then this uses the control rotation to change. Yeah, so this gets the control rotation, and then it sets information forward, backward. So it might be a little annoying to fix right now. Okay, so now my camera doesn't work which is fine. Yeah. So it looks like the pawn is spawning in and then shifting direction to match the camera, which I believe there's something in here we can do to get rid of that. Use controller desired rotation. I think that's it. Let me go ahead and try to put this back here. Okay. Hey, so a little bit of an addition to that. I'm going to switch this back over to, we got rid of use controller desired rotation and switched it to orient rotation to movement. So now the player will face whichever direction you're moving. So now if I go through here, I'm facing that way. As you can see, the player rotation actually changes depending on which direction they're facing when they go through. Ah, Jesus. So there you go. You can use orient rotation to movement or whatever you want to use. If you're using the default system, you'll just have to watch out since it orients the pawn rotation to the camera, and the camera automatically puts itself in a specific place, so you'll just have to watch out for that. There's additional stuff you can set up, like you could get the camera rotation and send it to the game instance, and then you could send that back to the player, so that way you could set the camera rotation and the player rotation at the same time. I'm not going to go over that since this was kind of an addition, but now that you've seen how to do it, you should be able to figure it out. You could even just add it to the player struct, just add a couple extra things here in the struct itself, um, and get that to work. But just want to let you guys know. All right. Okay. So, I mean, this is kind of an intro to map changes. Kind of a long video because of that last little bit, unfortunately. Um, but hopefully that'll help you guys learn how to do it. Thank you, and I hope you guys have a good day.